third attempted assassination of Donald Trump, things are getting crazy. Let's use tarot to see what we can find out about this situation. The first thing we're going to do is actually review the notes that I took on the news, and this is a pretty breaking story. It happened at 8:40 p.m., April 25th, 2026. It was located at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in Washington Hilton Hotel in DC. I've heard things on social media that this was previously the site of another attempted assassination. I think it was Ronald Reagan. There were 2,600 people attending this dinner. The suspect was confronted near metal detector by security. He may be named Cole Allen, and he rushed the security checkpoint, fired once, and then apprehended. There are some signs that he was a teacher from California. One officer was unfortunately shot in the vest, but he is expected to recover. Trump, Vice President Vance, and members of the cabinet were evacuated. When I looked at the video, it also looked like the press secretary and maybe the president of the White House Correspondents Association was also on the stage. And there may have been protests outside. This video is filmed at 4 a.m. in the morning. I just found out about this when I got out of the shower. So let's go ahead and see what we can find out. I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible, but everybody has a bias. Remember, you should always default to journalism. What I'm going to be doing in this reading is seeing if we can find out anything else and how it's relevant to us, both Americans and people in the international scene. So let's get started first with anything we should know about the suspect. Spirit, what do we need to know about the suspect? What is important and relevant? We have the Ace of Pentacles. Money may have been involved. We have the Seven of Cups reversed. He made a decision after many confusing choices. And then the third card is the Two of Wands reversed. It wasn't planned. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision. So there may be money involved. Maybe he got fired from his job, or he had a difficult situation at work and he got money. Some people are theorizing on social media that perhaps it was a hit job or he was radicalized by someone online. That's always possible. But I think these two cards are more important. He made a decision after many confusing choices, and this was an impulsive choice. And he believed it was either going to give him money, fame, or give him a new life path. One thing I'm thinking of here is Luigi Mangione. He became a folk hero. So perhaps this particular suspect thought he would become a folk hero or he would get something by succeeding. So I actually wonder, because people are saying he was apprehended alive, maybe that was his goal to begin with, was to survive the attempt because he wanted something in return for the attempt. Let's do 3 more cards about this, about his intentions, his mindset, his motivation. What do we need to know? It's very fortunate nobody died. The Chariot is a sign of polarization and progress. Here we see a left and right Sphinx, and my guess is that he wanted to really drive a wedge between both sides of the country through this action. He thought it would accelerate some sort of goal he had. So he likely had both personal reasons, both wanting fame or money or reputation, but also perhaps he wanted to advance an ideology. The next card is the Ace of Wands reversed. He's not certain it would work, but the 10 of Pentacles is an indication that while he's afraid he couldn't start anything, he does think that it could contribute to the temperature being much worse later on. So from his perspective, he had personal and political reasons for what he did. So let's see how this was stopped. Let's pull 3 cards on that. I saw some signs on social media that people were unsure of the security, but apparently the hotel frequently has pretty lax security outside of the event itself, and security really only focuses on the ballroom. So it's pretty standard, but overall it has lax security in the hotel. It's just the ballroom that is secure. We have the 6 of Wands reversed. Some sort of lack of glory, some sort of obstacle. The 10 of Cups. People were really working together. And then the 3rd card is the 8 of Swords, restrictions. So even though on the surface it seems like a lot went wrong because he was able to rush security, he didn't succeed. People really put aside their egos. The police officer that got shot and is expected to recover really put his life on the line, or her, I don't know if it's a man or a woman. But people really worked together to try to prevent this. And even though there was some holes in the security, at the end of the day, the reason why it was foiled wasn't an accident. They had really good measures in place. Is something like this likely to happen again soon? Spirit, is this likely to happen again soon? I mean, this is the 3rd one, so it's possible. And I believe the first attempt, which I think was in Butler, Pennsylvania, there actually was a death in the crowd, so that was unfortunately very tragic. So the first card here is the Devil, overcoming some sort of temptation or desire, overcoming your base desires. The 4 of Pentacles reversed is rejecting conservatism or rejecting tradition. And then the Lovers reversed, which is a sign of, and it also mirrors the Devil, of people not being united. So when I see these 3 cards, what I am thinking is happening here, we again have the left and right, the left and right, the left and right. We are seeing that people are going to agree on a big political level that violence is bad. They're not going to advance foot soldiers on any sort of policy. We're not going to see this seismic shift where people start fighting in the streets. But there's still going to be a very big push from the left against Donald Trump. There's probably going to be a lot of bad blood, and even if there isn't necessarily another attempt soon, there's still that underlying undercurrent of people wanting to get Trump. And so there's not like a societal desire to go to civil war, but there are still people and there is still an environment that is contributing to this. So let's see what Americans need to know and what people in the international world need to know after this incident. How is this incident relevant to you? Let's do the Americans first. So the Queen of Pentacles reversed, not being able to handle multiple things at once. Americans are really going to struggle after this, even though there isn't going to be some sort of civil war. There is this indication that people are going to struggle with handling the more extremist and radical elements in their own parties. It's going to be very clear that even if the parties aren't pushing extremists to act, they aren't able to stop the messaging that encourages it. The King of Swords. I'm really feeling this is Trump, actually. Trump is going to say something that is going to inflame the situation. He is a bit of a motor mouth. Even people on the right have said this. And so we should expect him to say something that makes the situation worse somehow. We have the Ten of Wands, the last card for the Americans today. This is about letting go of burdens, or burdens becoming unleashed. I feel like there's a Kamala Harris quote that I'm forgetting, but I think things are going to get less volatile somehow. It's still going to be there, but we aren't going to feel as if we're at civil war. So I did see one sort of tweet when I was looking up all of this that said, because this attack was, it seems to be towards Trump is what most people are saying, but the liberal media was also there and would have been the victim had bullets started firing. Perhaps it's going to make the media see that it doesn't matter who you are. Extremists will target everyone because extremists actually aren't part of either party. They aren't trying to support the traditional conservative policies or the normal progressive policies. They are quite radical. And we actually do see that with horseshoe theory, where radical leftists and the alt-right really start to converge on some policies. And I do think we are going to realize that we struggle to control them, but we're also going to be aware that those aren't representatives of the average liberal or conservative in America. So it is a conflicted situation as a result of this assassination attempt on Donald Trump in America. It's unresolved, but it's not going to get worse. Now let's look at the international stage. Is this going to have any effect? How is it relevant to you if you aren't American and you're watching this right now? What do you need to know internationally? How is this important? Internationally, this could cause some problem in the markets. This is the sporadic money messages card. So expect some sort of tumble in the stock market or some sort of lagging indicator. There's this saying that when America coughs, the world gets a cold, that sort of thing. The next card is the King of Pentacles. Again, money problems with the economy. And then we have the World reverse. So there actually is going to be some sort of international effect. My guess is it likely has something to do with the conflict in Iran. So let's actually pull 3 more cards on this because I think it's a little more important than I thought it would be. Let's pull 3 more cards. What do we need to know internationally? Let's get a little more context. We have justice. There appears to be some sort of issue of law. We have the 7 of Swords reversed, some sort of theft or ill strategy. And then we have the 10 of Swords, being stabbed in the back or ending something. This could be that through some sort of legal means, somebody tried to plot against Trump or the United States, and they were able to do so because through legal means they were able to publish things or send money or send propaganda in such a way that it radicalized the suspect, and the person who did this is essentially going to get away with it because what they did was legal. From the American perspective, we have freedom of speech, freedom freedom of the press, all those sort of things. So you are able to say and do things that you can't do in other countries, and you are able to view things that people say and do in other countries that other countries aren't allowed to view because of their restrictions on speech. And so the freedoms that Americans have can be used against them, and I think it was in this case. I often see people say that sometimes you'll see very radical political posts online, and the people who post it will say that they are Americans, and in reality, they're actually from another country, and they're just pretending to be a fake American to try to radicalize things, try to make money off of internet bait, all of those sort of things. And I think that could be what happened here, that this suspect may have been radicalized because of these messages. So let's end with 3 cards for you, viewer. How is this relevant to you, to specifically the people who watch tarot? Like, what do you need to know? Is there anything you can do spiritually? Is there anything you can specifically do? So this is for spiritual people. We have the Knight of Wands. So you can use your spiritual energy to meditate on peace, to send good vibes. We have the Star. You can think about how your purpose, your soul purpose, contributes to the peace and prosperity in the world. And then we have the Seven of Pentacles. This is about not investing so much in the future, but thinking about the now. So sometimes we look at our spiritual beliefs, our powers, we look at our soul purpose, and we think about ourselves in the future. However, you can use your spiritual powers for good now. Maybe after this reading, you could spend just 5 minutes meditating, praying, thinking of how to send positive energy into the world. And I think this, after these few minutes, it will inspire you in the future to where if you are inspired or pushed by someone near you to say something radical or to be hateful to someone else, you'll tone back that tone. Maybe you won't write a really nasty comment that gets into conspiracies to this video, something like that. Instead, you think about how your soul purpose will push you to do not just the right thing for you, not just the right thing in the future, but how you can make the world a better place right now in the everyday moments that you choose to live. Well, my soul friends, that is what I have today. I hope this gave a little bit of context to the situation. Remember to always default to journalism. We're probably going to learn more about this situation in the coming days and weeks, but I am sending you many blessings. In the comments, let me know if there's any world event, political, American event, anything like that, pop culture that you would like me to cover. Otherwise, sending you blessings.